The work I propose for my FMP seeks to build on that which I completed for the Collaboration and Professional Locations module. In this presentation, I will outline that previous work and consider ideas for moving the work on to its next stage. In July 2022, the Westminster Parliament's Joint Committee on Human Rights published the report of its inquiry looking at the experiences of unmarried women and their children who were adopted between 1949 and 1976. The committee wanted to understand the situation faced by unmarried mothers whose children were adopted without those mothers having a meaningful choice. Thus the report focuses on the 185,000 women who were forced to give their children for adoption during this period, and the impact of these forced adoptions on the children concerned. My mother was one of those women, and I was one of the children. The experiences my mother had at the hands of the state agencies and the adoption system of that time traumatised her, leaving her in mental anguish and with emotional pain that affected the rest of her life. In my work, I use family photographs to elevate my mother's hitherto unheard voice above the voices of officialdom. I lay the photographs over the text of the inquiry report, directing the viewer to discern the inequitable impact of unjust adoption policies on the lives of vulnerable women and their children. I use photographs to represent my mother's experience. Pictures of me growing up illustrate the years when she did not know what had become of her child. Superimposing family photographs and personal notes over official text, I proclaim an ascendancy of personal experience over political manoeuvrings that for 25 years excluded the voices of unmarried mothers. The ill-thought-out adoption laws of 1949 have affected all the people in these photographs, obliging them to be complicit with those laws. This has cascaded hurt, omissions and falsehoods down the years, just as described in the text of the committee's report. Working with a limited supply of images, I impose a timeline on the series of photographs, from my mother's discovery of her pregnancy through the events surrounding my birth and subsequent adoption, my childhood, adolescence and young adulthood, and our reunion in 1975. I have been repeatedly humbled at the number of people who, after seeing my work and hearing me speak about it, have said, "Your story resonates with me and my family's experience," and have thanked me for raising the issues. Such feedback indicates to me the importance of this work and provides the impetus for me to continue. From my research and from the first phase of this work, 5 key themes emerge. These are the problem of illegitimacy, rejecting the legacy of shame, patriarchy and the control of fertility, legal fiction, and fractured bonds. I will briefly describe these in the following slides. The first adoption laws in England and Wales were a fiction to erase the stigma of illegitimacy. Children born of unmarried mothers had been considered illegitimate because there was no legally recognised father from whom the children could inherit. This problem was solved by taking the child from the mother and giving legal parenthood to an adoptive family. An atmosphere had grown where to have an illegitimate child or to be an illegitimate child was a terrible stigma. This legacy of shame was a powerful engine driving forced adoptions and of legitimising babies with respectable married couples. Forced adoption exploits women, downplays the trauma for a child of being separated from its mother, and is based on a claimed human right of every adult to have their own child, ignoring the rights of women who give life to the children. Forced adoption denies the significance of motherhood by completely severing the mother-child bond after birth. At the same time, the stigma of the unmarried mother can be erased by allowing her motherhood to be forgotten. A legal fiction is created where the adoptive parents may be regarded as if they were the original parents, and an adoption certificate issued in place of the original birth certificate to acknowledge this. It is not just the physical interdependence of a pregnant woman and her to-be-born child that is downplayed in patriarchy. The emotional bond between mother and newborn child is as well. Nowhere is this clearer than in forced adoption, where success is routinely measured by how cleanly or brutally this bond is broken. After rigorous appraisal, it seems to me that fractured bonds is the theme best suited to be the cornerstone of my FMP. I have begun to see these fractured bonds as covered by a series of veils or blocked by closed doors or airlocks, albeit with secret codes that enable some parties to bypass the checkpoints and roadblocks. So my task will be how to conceptualise these ideas in photography, using family photographs, archive material, new photographs and possibly appropriated photographs, to give my viewers insights into the experiences of unmarried women and their children who were subject to the mid-century forced adoption regime in England and Wales. The subject area is large, so I need to create boundaries and stay within them. Some of the material is sensitive, even within my own families, so I need to take care regarding its dissemination. At this stage, I am considering an online workshop negotiated via one of the adoption support agencies as a means of testing my work before a wider audience. I am unsure as to what the final artefacts might be. I am open to the idea of a documentary video, and I have an option on an exhibition space. On the other hand, maybe a book constructed to physically demonstrate those veils, closed doors and airlocks might work. And I am currently evaluating the idea of constructing an artefact based on a compendium, where different games of chance represent those themes my research has identified. Illustrated with photographs rather than numbers, games would provide players with deeper awareness of the forced adoption experiences of unmarried mothers and their children, as detailed in the Parliamentary Human Rights Committee report.